2023 marks a special year for Power Rangers. This year we'll be celebrating 30 years of the franchise, and when August 28th rolls around, it would have been 30 years since episode 1 of MMPR hit television airwaves, turning the brand into the powerhouse it was back in the 90s and how it stays alive today. But in 2023, we're also celebrating the anniversary of another season. Megaforce. That's right, on February 2nd, 2012, Megaforce aired. It's crazy that some of these Neo Saban seasons are entering their decade-year anniversary, but we're not here to talk about the past and remember old seasons. Well, we kind of are, but not in the way you think. But we're finally here, never before seen Power Ranger Monsters Megaforce Edition, the video you've been requesting for the longest time when I started this series. A lot of people have been patiently waiting for me to get to Megaforce. Now, there are over 20 monsters that didn't make it into Megaforce and Super Megaforce, and you probably know why with how those seasons turned out. So instead of covering 40 plus monsters across several different videos, I'm gonna whittle it down to 5 monsters per series. So, if you want to see the full list, you can go to Ranger Wiki to see what monsters didn't make the cutting room floor of these Power Ranger seasons. First up is Bilbaboo. Now, this episode first appeared in Gokaiger episode 44, which was a Christmas themed episode, and Super Megaforce never had any holiday themed episodes. And one thing they missed out on adapting was Gokai Christmas, and it kind of sucks that this form never got adapted. Orion never got to use it in the show. That would have been really freaking cool if they did adapt Gokai Christmas. I would have loved to see that. But the episode was also a Battle Fever J tribute, which I doubt they would have used the suits. I think they probably did use it in Super Megaforce. I can't remember, but the monster design is really unique, really colourful, and it sucks that we never got to see this episode adapted for the Christmas-themed episode of Super Megaforce. I'm wondering if they did have it planned, but they couldn't work around the footage, or they mostly wanted to focus on the big finale for the Legendary War. Guess we'll never find out. Next up on the list is Sarouge DT of Intimidation. This monster appeared in episode 32 of Goseiger, and apparently is meant to be a sea sponge, but I honestly don't see it. But it's obvious why this monster got skipped, because you see the Japanese text across it. It's got that wacky, silly face when it's trying to be in a good mood. It's got a really fun design, but I can kind of guess why it was skipped, but its design is really unique, and that's why I put it on the list. Next up is Zakura. This wacky looking guy appeared in Gokaiger episode 33, and it was a tribute episode, The Die Ranger. What's interesting about this monster is it's got a big appetite, and maybe if they worked around the Die Ranger stuff in the episode, or worked with it, you never know with Super Megaforce, they could have made this monster sort of like a tribute, the Pudgy Pig, with how that monster ate all the food in an early episode of Mighty Morphin. But they didn't use the suit. I think it's a really wacky, silly design. I do enjoy it. It's like a giant carrot veggie monster. I dig it a lot. And if they did adapt it, like I said, it could have been a tribute to Pudgy Pig or that episode of Mighty Morphin. But oh well, it is what it is. Next up is, I'm probably going to butcher this one, Sara Waiku Tero of the Fairy. This monster was never adapted into Megaforce, but if it would probably be on the side of the Toxic Beast. But this design for the monster is freaking scary looking. Finding the monster where it's close up and you see that big grin on their face is freaky looking. Not only that, it's based on a folklore where fairies would be tricksters and they would lure people away, and that's kind of what happens in the Goseiger episode, where one of the rangers tries getting lured away back to their home world on Gosei World. So it's a shame that it never got adapted, but it is really freaky looking. It does have a bit of chest going on for it, but either way, it's a really unique, freaky looking design, and I would have loved to see it adapted into Megaforce in some shape or form. And seeing how it was a Yellow Ranger based episode, it would have been great to make it a Gia focused episode where she barely got any development in Megaforce and Super Megaforce. So it kind of sucks that they missed the boat on adapting that episode. In Super Megaforce, we saw the return of Carter Grayson in the finale, and in Gokaiger, there was a tribute to Go-Go 5, and we saw the appearance of Pyroid Man. Now, the returning ranger for that episode was Go Pink in Gokaiger, but imagine if they tried adapting that monster and that episode, and we got the all-American hero Carter Grayson to return. That would have been freaking amazing. And recording this now, I am bummed out we only saw a couple of seconds of Carter Grayson in freaking Super Megaforce, but imagine if they adapted that monster in that episode and got Carter to return for that tribute episode. That would have been really freaking cool. But hey, like Megaforce did and Super Megaforce did with a lot of things, they skipped the boat on a couple of things here and there. So, oh well. Next up is, this one's another mouthful, Zetero S of the Mac. March. Now, apart from having an interesting design, this monster is notable for having the ultimate Goseiger Great Megazord appearing in the episode therein. And did we see all the Zord formations in Megaforce? I can't remember, but either way, that's why I put it in there, because it's notable for having the Zord power up in the episode of the Sentai. But overall, I do dig their design with the giant hammerhead and jet design. I think it looks really cool that way. So do you remember that episode of Super Megaforce where they went to the RPM dimension and it was a giant race car track because that's what Gouonja was based on in the Sentai world? Well, in that episode on the Sentai, that counterpart, there was a character called Barbaric Officer Chira Shizuki? I probably butchered that name, but it's basically a cowboy gun-slinging monster that was hired by one of the villains to hunt down the Gokaigers. And I gotta say, their design looks pretty neat. It's a shame they never made it into Super Megaforce. I think their gimmick would have worked well aside from using guns and stuff like that, but it's just one of the monsters that never made it into what Super Megaforce did a tribute for, and the Gokaiger episode was completely different. So, just a little bit of fun fact there. Now, if this monster was adapted into Megaforce, it probably would have sided with the Toxic Beast with what faction it was in with the Sentai. Now, this one is called Jogon of the Ningyo, and this is a really interesting design because it's based on a silverfish and a Ningyo, which is a yokai that sports a monkey-like face whose flesh is guarded by the belief of bringing misfortune and storms. But not only that, its Japanese name, well, if you say Creature of the Black Lagoon in Japanese, it's got names that sort of add to its pun, along with Ju-on. So we've got Ju-on from The Grudge, and not only that, a Japanese wordplay pun on a Creature of the Black Lagoon. But not only that, its design is gross and weird looking, and it kind of sucks that it never made it into Megaforce along with a bunch of other monsters. But either way, cool design, cool little folklore and backstory, and I like the pun on its names, so that's why I decided to put it in the list. Okay, I'm kind of disappointed that we never got to see this guy in Super Megaforce. So this monster is Kai Kiaido. This monster appeared in Gokaiger and its design looks freaking amazing. It looks like a red reskin of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, but they've got a cool ass sword with them. And it sucks that it never got adapted because I feel like this monster could have been a cool general. Although the episode that appeared in was a tribute to Jetman, but I'm sure if Saban had the suit lying around, they could have used it in some shape or form. So when Megaforce rolled around, we never really got a Megaforce and a Samurai team up. Although there was a tribute episode to Samurai in Super Megaforce, I don't know if it really counts because Jaden didn't really do much in that episode. But in the Goseiger and the Shinkenja movie, we see Vrak and Master Xandred's counterparts fuse into one, and I gotta say, this is a really cool freaking looking design, and it sucks that we never got a Samurai and Megaforce crossover because I would have loved to see this suit appear in the movie or in the show or some kind of team up episode. It's a really freaking awesome design, and it sucks that they skipped down on it. Now with Gokaiger, they celebrated 35 years of Super Sentai for their anniversary season, and in one of the movies we saw the villain Combined Combatant from Gokaiger in one of their movies, and this monster is basically all the foot soldiers from every Super Sentai combined into one monster. And it's a shame that they never did their own thing like this in Power Rangers by combining all their foot soldiers. That would have been really cool to see because Power Rangers has a lot of original foot soldiers in some seasons here and there. So it kind of sucks that we never got to see our own thing with the counterpart of this in Power Rangers. But either way, it's a cool looking design. It's a bit of a clusterfuck, but I love it. It's wacky, it's cool. I kind of wish we got to see it in some shape or form in Power Rangers, but we never did. So that's pretty much 10 monsters that didn't appear in Megaforce or Super Megaforce. Now, although I didn't cover all the monsters that didn't make the cutting room floor, I did my best to cover the ones that seemed interesting. And like I said at the start of the video, if you want to see the entire list, you can view it on Ranger Wiki. But what are your favorite monsters from Gokaiger and Goseiger? Tell me in the comment section down below. And what did you think of this video? Was the hype worth it? Was it not worth it? I can't wait to keep moving forward into other Neo Saban seasons and see what monsters never made it into those lists, because maybe I'll have to start combining more seasons into one. You never know, but I'm finally glad we made it into Megaforce and Super Megaforce, and I can't wait to see where this series is going to go next once we cover all the monsters that never made it into Power Rangers. We'll have to think of something else to do and talk about other monsters or other characters that never made it into the show. But anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you guys later. Peace out, take care, thanks for watching, bye!